They asked me for my house keys before I'd even closed. Not a spare for a neighbor I trust or a lockbox for the fire department. A mandatory surrender to the HOA. Yeah, that happened. And it was the cleanest little red flag I've ever seen waving at eye level, saying, "Welcome home, hand over control." I'd been saving forever, stalking listings on lunch breaks, dreaming about a sunlit two-story with a porch big enough for muddy boots and coffee. And when I found it, the maple out front that would glow in October, a kitchen that didn't make me swear. At cabinets, the only speed bump was 3 polite letters, HOA. You know what I mean? Paint colors, grass, height, trash bins tucked out of sight. Nothing about surveillance drones or fines for waving at your neighbor. So I shrugged, signed, and started measuring for curtains. A week before closing, my phone pinged at 7:43 a.m. with a PDF that looked official. In that way, fonts make things feel official. Mandatory orientation and key deposit occupancy restricted until completed. And in the middle of those bold boxes and a clip art padlock sat the line that tripped me. Provide one working set of keys to your new home for emergency and compliance purposes before the HOA would authorize occupancy. Authorize occupancy at my house. I called my agent an old school, "don't worry, I brought an extra pin" kind of guy, and he said something I don't think he said to any client. What on earth? Then we both dove into the covenants, and there it was. Language about exterior maintenance entry only for emergencies in coordination with police or fire rules adopted at open meetings mailed to owners, the usual nothing about a board-run key locker that sounded like a lost and found for privacy. I emailed back, polite like my grandma taught me, happy to attend orientation, happy to pay any recorded fee. Because this is a single-family home I own outright, I will not be providing a key. Please cite the recorded declaration, bylaws, or mailed rule. The manager, a man named Trent, who typed like a teacher's pet, shot back. This is standard adopted by the board under Rule 17, no attachment, just Rule 17 dropped like a brick. So I asked for the text and the proof of adoption also, where Rules 1 through 16 live, and got silence for dessert. I closed on a Friday, signed my name so many times it felt like a chorus, took the keys, like the escrow officer was handing me a comet, and stood in the empty living room listening to my echo bounce off joy. Then, Saturday 8 a.m., I'm taping trim for paint, and a white SUV with community services on the door slides up and parks across my driveway. The woman who steps out has a clipboard and a ponytail tight enough to deflect rain. Morning, she sings through the open door, "I'm Brenda, HOA president." Orientation. Also your key? It sounds like a dentist asking for your insurance card. I tell her I haven't been given any rule. She smiles without smiling. Board rule. We can adopt rules for the health, safety, and welfare of residents. Keys are sealed in numbered envelopes in a locked file at the clubhouse. Only me and the manager have access. No one is rifling through your underwear. Which is a funny thing to deny when no one mentioned underwear. I keep my voice steady. Single-family home. No right to my house keys, emergencies handled by police or fire, and she tosses in a threat about suspending my access devices, which is HOA, for your gate fob and pool privileges, plus movers, which is a cute way to say blockade the entrance like a drawbridge for golf carts. Let me back up a sec. There's a short arm at the neighborhood entrance that goes up and down for no reason except vibes. And that afternoon, when my movers show up, a security guy with mirrored sunglasses and a badge from a company I've never heard of says he can't raise the arm without HOA authorization, and I point at my car parked on the street, pass the arm and say, "I walked in because feet, and he has nothing for that." By 4 o'clock, a non-compliance email hits my inbox with $300 in fines for unauthorized occupancy and anticipated Monday, like they've pre-written my week, plus a note about my bad faith refusal to provide a key going in your file, which is adorable because I am the file. I send back citation state law prohibiting HOAs from controlling occupancy. The covenant section limiting entry to emergencies with proper authorities promise to involve law enforcement if they block movers again. And then I install cameras because my friend June, who taught me to read leases back when we had roommates, says they're shaking you down for your keys, set eyes on every door. I swap the locks too, a jittery locksmith named Evan rekey's the 3 exterior doors and checks for extra master pins builders sometimes sneak in. You're clean, he says. Still change them, so I do. And I tuck fresh keys into a clay dish I made in a class crooked leaf shape that makes me smile. At 1:13 a.m., my phone pings. Front door camera. 2 figures walking up my path. One in security polo, the other in a windbreaker. The windbreaker pulls out something small and shiny, slides it into my deadbolt like he thinks he's in a training video. And when the lock doesn't turn because Evan already saved my sleep, he tries again harder. Hands the key to the security guy who knocks and announces, "Association, we need to verify occupancy." I hit the speaker and hear my own voice through the doorbell. "Leave my porch. You are trespassing. You do not have consent to enter if you don't leave." I'm calling the police and the windbreaker flinches like he didn't expect the door to talk. On the way out, the security guy peels the recording in progress sticker off my window and slaps it on the railing like a middle school prank. So I do what adults do. I call the non-emergency line, make a report, save the video 3 ways because I've learned grief and evidence like redundancy. 7 o'clock, the manager emails. During last night's compliance check, our officer observed our master emergency key failed to operate your lock, and I have to read that twice because apparently there's a mythical HOA master key to privately owned houses. I reply with the kind of sentence that makes your hands stop shaking. You are not authorized to maintain any keys to my home. There is no such thing here as an association master key to private dwellings. Any attempt to enter without consent is criminal trespass. And that afternoon, I finally received PDFs titled Rule 17, cobbled together like a school project, saying owners must surrender keys, authorizing random compliance checks, effective 2 weeks ago. No minutes, no vote, no secretary's signature, just board of directors like a rubber stamp. So I go make a neighbor knock on the house with a faded cat decal in the window and meet Nina, who answers in an apron that says, "Y'all means all," and she laughs when I tell her Brenda called me a troublemaker because that's a badge of honor on our block. We sit at her kitchen table with coffee that tastes like a hug, and she tells me about last year's board elections, 3 friends who ran on standards which turned into measuring grass with rulers, and how they floated a key program once before and dropped it after grumbling, then tried again after their buddies hopped on the board mid-year. She also tells me something that sets the hair on my arm upright. The builder's rep had a ring with a master key that opened a bunch of houses, hers included, and when she changed her locks later, she found second pins in the deadbolt. So I leave with a plate of cookies and a plan. Because sometimes you're not being difficult, you're setting the boundary everyone else wanted but was too tired to draw. I write a demand letter, not a lawyer, just a person who reads, point out they adopted a rule affecting core property rights without an owner vote required by our state. Demand they rescind the rule, refund fines. Confirm in writing there's no master key, and promise to seek an injunction and report trespass if they don't fix it by 5 p.m. Monday. I set another camera by the side gate, asked the police to swing by during the mover's second run because a uniform calms petty tyrants, and when the entrance arm drops again and Brenda's perched by the clubhouse like a general on a parapet, a patrol car pulls up. Lucky timing, but I'll take it, and the officer patient. As a kindergarten teacher explains, the HOA can't blockade a public street. They can fine if they must, but they can't play drawbridge, so the arm hums up and traffic sighs, and I think maybe we're done. We are not done, because at 6:12 p.m., my camera catches windbreaker again, except now the face pops clear in the motion light, and it's not security. It's the vice president from the community website. Mr. Caldwell, who tries my handle like doors or suggestions, then takes a picture of my porch like evidence cuts both ways. I send the video to June to an attorney friend of hers named Selena, who owes her a favor from a housing dispute years back, and to the district attorney's community liaison with the subject line attempted entry by association officer. Because if there's a crime, I want the clean steps to say it. Next morning, the liaison emails with two things. If anyone tries again, call 911 and say, attempted unlawful entry, suspect known, and by the way, our trespass statutes don't require actual entry. A nighttime attempt after a clear warning can be enough. And June squeals mini legal clinic in your inbox while I answer. I just want to sleep without watching a camera at 1 a.m. We print stills, burn a disc like it's 2008 because the magistrate's office trusts paper more than links. And by late morning, I've filed a criminal complaint for trespass against John Doe the first night and Mr. Caldwell the second, then asked for a temporary protective order limiting Caldwell from coming within 100 feet of my house. The magistrate asks 3 questions. Do you know him? Have you told them not to come? Do you believe this will continue without a court order? And when I say no, yes, and yes, he signs the paper still smelling like toner when we leave. The process server texts me an hour later, cheerful as a birthday clown. Served at the clubhouse, and I tape my copy of the order inside my front window next to a fresh recording in progress sticker because sometimes paper needs to speak in big letters. Brenda blasts a clarifying safety policies email to the whole community packed with buzzwords, industry best practices, rapid response misinformation, and says there'll be a forum to answer questions. Translation, talk until dinner. So I file records requests instead, adoption history vote counts, security contract, any key custody log list of homes that surrendered keys, cite the statute giving them 5 business days, then walk into Nina's living room for what she calls lemonade and what looks like a block party in a den. People bring receipts like a Stormfront Rafe with a dawn video of a windbreaker peeking over his fence, Leah with a violation for leaving a ladder out for 2 hours and a photo taken from inside her side yard. Eli saying the manager keeps a spreadsheet of who turned in keys and called it confidential when he asked to see it. A retired teacher who thought she scared herself hearing someone in her laundry room until my videos told her, nope, that was real. We formed the Neighborhood Owners Coalition because if the HOA plays board games, we can play too. Force a special meeting to rescind Rule 17, and if needed, recall. The board get the fire department to the forum to explain what emergency entry actually means for single-family homes. Recruit candidates if seats open, and Hank, a retired accountant, volunteers to look at the books Nina quietly offers to run. Leah raises her hand, and I say, I'll be the microphone. The forum notice arrives with no filming in bold letters, which is not how rules work at public meetings. So I tell them I'll be recording my statement and hear nothing back. And then the manager tries to stall my records request with, we estimate 30 days, and I reply with the 5-day statute and a polite warning about filing to compel inspection with daily penalties because sometimes you have to make it more expensive to stall than to comply. Here's the twist. Inside the twist, a neighbor named Leo texts me that he surrendered a key 6 months ago before a long trip. And when he came back, a little camera and his grandmother's tin of sewing notions were gone. He blamed himself until he saw my clip. And now his voice shakes when he says, maybe that wellness check on the log will match the week his buttons disappeared. We hand-deliver the special meeting petition, 46 signatures needed, 39. We'll verify the manager sniffs, and Nina, smiling like an organized storm, says, you have 48 hours to schedule it. We already have the court template if you don't. The clubhouse packs out for the forum. Brenda opens with firefighter language seconds, matter safe entry, and then a real firefighter boot, still squeaking, slides into the back and raises a hand, apologizes for being late, and calmly says, we don't keep private house keys. We don't coordinate with HOAs for entry in an emergency. We force the door. That's our job. And the room tilts like a tray. Someone bumped. I give my statement videos, protective order, adoption law, and one plain sentence I want printed on every mailbox. We are not a middle school. You don't get to put our names under bad behavior and hand out demerits. We own our homes. We choose who holds our keys. Next morning, I get a cease and desist from the HOA's lawyer calling my statements defamatory. Selena replies with the evidence a litigation hold and CCs the association's insurer because nothing moves a board like the quiet dread of a carrier reading trespass and key custody in the same paragraph. On the 5th business day, a PDF dump arrives, including a track changes draft of Rule 17, complete with unhappy comments, a key authorization form in gold. The key custody log 3 entries showing dates used at specific addresses, including Leo's labeled wellness check, no return recorded. We walk it to the police and send it to the insurer. That afternoon, the judge grants a temporary injunction, Rule 17, likely unenforceable, likely adopted improperly, risk of irreparable harm, and that night under fluorescent lights and quiet anger, secret ballots fly like birds. Rule 17 rescinded in a landslide, the recall passes. Nina, Leah, and Hank take seats without confetti, just relief. Their first acts are sentences. I want framed, the association will never retain private home keys. All keys in custody returned within 48 hours. Compliance checks suspended. Written notice for any common area work near fenced yards. Emergencies verified by public safety only. They hire independent counsel to investigate. Terminate the security contract refund. Every Rule 17, fine with interest, and report the mess to the insurer. The next day, brown envelopes with keys show up on porches like a weird trick-or-treat. The detective calls to say Mr. Caldwell insisted he was just checking the handle, but signed the criminal trespass complaint anyway, and the new board adopts a plain language policy called Doors Are Yours, which is exactly how it should have been from the start. Now, most nights the camera pings or Kat's packages or Nina's cookies. The maple blushes early and holds the light like a lantern. And when I come in and drop my keys into that crooked clay dish by the door, they make a small, solid sound. Not surrender, not compliance, just home. And that sound is the period at the end of a sentence I finally got to finish. But let me ask you, was I right to push this hard, to drag it into court and pull neighbors into a fight they didn't pick? Or do you think sometimes we confuse community with control and hand over rights because the font looks official? Yeah, that's the debate. Safety versus privacy, convenience versus consent, and it doesn't stop at a gate arm or a clubhouse. So tell me where you land. Should any HOA ever hold a private key? Should compliance checks cross your threshold? Should a board be able to blockade a street because you said, no, drop your take on right and wrong? Here on what justice looks like when community standards become a pretext on how a neighborhood stays a neighborhood without becoming a fiefdom. Because I'm listening, and so are a lot of folks who've been waiting for someone to say out loud that their front door is not a suggestion.